What is up, everybody? Hello, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. Happy December 4th. That is Ari. I'm Korea. Look, Ari, we had a very exciting weekend. I mean, we had a bunch of college basketball, so many upsets over the weekend. College football, obviously, the playoff has been finalized. All the bowls have been finalized. We're going to get into that in a little bit. And then, obviously, a very interesting day in the NFL with some interesting results. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was pretty good overall. Like you said, a lot of exciting college football games, college basketball games. Not the best NFL slate on Sunday, but I mean it wasn't. There were some decent games. But yeah, all in all, another exciting week in sports overall, and then looking for another great week this upcoming week.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, a very, very exciting weekend. We're just going to get right into it. Obviously, we had our recap from over the weekend. We're going to get into our best bet recap from Friday. This is, I know, a long time ago. This is still last month or I think, no, this was the first day of the month, Friday, December 1st. And we're going to get right into it. Washington, obviously, they won outright. I knew that line was too high. I knew 9 points was too many. It was an ugly bet for me, personally, but, you know, I bet I like, and I told so many people this. I bet lines, not teams. And when I see something that's a little too much for me, I saw it was too many points. And look, it was exactly what I predicted. If you told me that Oregon Washington game was the exact same one as we saw in Mott Lake just a few weeks ago, I mean it was exactly the same thing. I mean, Bo Nix and the Oregon offense just couldn't finish in the red zone. Penix was struggling at first, but Dylan Johnson just ran through that Oregon defense. It was, I mean, Washington pretty much kept it, competitive, and they were the ones, acting like they were the minus 9.5 point favorites, to start instead of Oregon. So I knew that was too many points, but like I said, that's a nice win for us. And then, a fortunate 1 and 2 day for college basketball. Houston, I saw that line going down, and as soon as I saw it going down, I kind of knew Xavier was going to probably cover. I thought this was a great spot because that line was already at 8.5, and I thought Houston was going to be a little more defensive on the road, but defense carries, but your offense doesn't. If your defense carries and your offense isn't really backing you up as much, you only can do so much, and that was kind of a tough loss for Houston. That was kind of the same fate for George Washington. George Washington, that line was going in our favor. As that line went down from 9.5 to 8.5, and it didn't even matter. George Washington didn't even show up. Their offense was absolutely horrible. This is what I'm talking about. It's hard. When you see these offenses, that you want to back in these great spots, and they just can't shoot the ball, and you're thinking, why is that line so high? This team is a great shooting team. It's high for a reason. So we're still early. Obviously, there's still so much college basketball left on the slate, and then obviously wrapping up with St. John's. That was a nice win. That was a sweaty win, but it was a nice win. Won by 6 against West Virginia. Like I said, this West Virginia program is just not really serious this year after the whole Bob Huggins incident off the court, and everyone pretty much leaving in the transfer portal as soon as the incident had happened. It's going to be a rough year for West Virginia basketball, and I like St. John's in this bounce back spot. So 2-2 day, we'll take it on Friday. I'm not going to complain too much about it. All right, we'll get into your Friday real quick. How did you do?
West Virginia is just waiting for the return of Kirk Crease. That's all I need to get back into. Nice 2-0-1 day for me on Friday. You talked about Washington already winning outright. That was nice. The Purdue read wound up being really good because they won by 8 in the first half and they lost the full game. So, like you said, that was one of the upsets in college basketball this weekend. So that was a nice read for that Purdue. And then the Raptors were up by 3, and then RJ Barrett has an and-1 with 2 seconds left in the first half to end up tying the game and being a push. So obviously a push better than a loss, but one possession away from being a 3-0 Friday. But of course, you'll still take a 2-0-1. So yeah.
Yeah, you can't really complain about, as you said, UW winning outright. Purdue, as I mentioned, on that Friday game, I said, first half Purdue likes to, get out to an open lead. That's why I'm gonna talk about, why I think, this other team today has a great spot to cover the first half against Purdue. But, in that spot, and then look, Northwestern ran out and, won outright. And, I kind of said, Northwestern at home, this is a great spot for them. That line was already going down. As Ari said, we like to target, first halves, getting it out. And, that was a great spot for Purdue, obviously on the road, kind of establishing the tone up by 8. And then, now then obviously the second half collapse, obviously ending the game in a loss. And I knew Northwestern was probably going to adjust at halftime. And then the Raptors, you can't do anything with a push. I mean, yay, like you get your money back. Like it didn't lose, but it didn't win. So we'll take what we can. 2-0 in one day, as already said, for Friday. Getting into Saturday real quick for me, and just the weekend, it was ugly. I mean, it was ugly on Sunday. You know what? Forget Sunday. I'm not even going to acknowledge Sunday because Sunday was just horrible. But Saturday, we were looking great, and then obviously Louisville for college football. Obviously Louisville. I thought Louisville was a great read. Obviously the whole story with Tate Rodemaker and, him being questionable, and then he was out, and, the Louisville offense just did not show up. That team sucks. They're banned. That team was so, I mean, the fact that Jack Plummer didn't even get 100, and this team was like, remember when Louisville was like a top 5 offense in the nation? It was bad. It was bad. And then Texas minus 15, minus 20, minus whatever. That was so free. I knew that Texas line at minus 15 was a little sketchy. I knew Texas was going to cover that line. I knew they had more to play for, obviously, and they ended up in the playoffs. So they definitely had a lot more to play for. And then Alabama plus 5.5. I even said sprinkle the money line, and look what happened. Exactly what I said. What happened? I said Alabama. That line was going on in the wrong direction, and I knew as soon as I saw that line just keep go down even more and more, and I saw it potentially go down all the way to 4.5 before kickoff. I knew, that means Alabama has probably a good chance of winning this game, or at least keeping it close. But that game was pretty much all Alabama from the get-go. Georgia did keep it close and competitive, but as soon as Georgia got that opening touchdown, it was Bama just coming back, driving down the field with Milroe. Their defense pretty much got themselves under their own feet after, being a little stumbling on that first drive. So, for college football, we'll take a 2 in one day. Louisville's banned because, they don't have an offense, but, we'll take that. And then college basketball Saturday, another tough 1 and 2 day. First, Marquette on the money line. I also had them at minus 2.5 as well. And I faded my own system, and I don't know why I did that. I'm just going to scratch that away. And FAU, look, I don't know what happened. I saw a video in that game where, one of the FAU guys was talking to one of Charleston's coaches, and, I'm thinking, like, why are you talking to him? And then he had to talk to Dusty May, and I'm just thinking, oh, this is going to be Colorado cover. Charleston's going to cover this, aren't they? And they did. And then Gonzaga minus 3.5. That was a nice little sweat-free winner to pretty much end the night. I knew Gonzaga in the spot, minus 3.5 against USC. Please, they looked up and that game opened and Gonzaga never looked back. It was all Bulldogs from the get-go, pretty much from the opening tip as well. They went on a 15-2 run to open the game, won by 13. I love that line for them. And then, you know what? That's going to do it for that weekend's recap. You know what? Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this weekend's recap. Sunday, we're going to forget about it. Move on to Monday. But yeah, nice day on Saturday for college football. Tough day for college basketball. Ari, let's get into your recaps, please.
Yeah, it was a rough Saturday for me, 0-2. Tulane got off to an early 7-0 lead against SMU, and that was basically their whole offense the rest of the game. They had one more touchdown. They lost 26-14. You talked about Louisville. It was like 16-6, I think, was the final score in that game. So rough Saturday, but then a 3-0 Sunday for me. Colts, obviously sweaty, an overtime win. The Falcons, they only won by 5, but you never really felt the Jets were going to score a touchdown in that game. So that was nice. And the Lions, they're up 21-0 in the first 7 minutes, and then they end up winning by the hook 33-28. So obviously all 3 of them were close, but obviously you'll take. I think last Sunday I was 0-3 or 0-2, something like that. So a nice bounce back for me on this Sunday after a rough Saturday.
Yeah, obviously maybe I need a little bit of luck from you, because obviously last Sunday for me I was 3-0, and this Sunday 0 for 3. Well, meanwhile you went 0 for 3. Now you go 3-0. So maybe we got to figure out a way to each consistently go undefeated on Sundays. But, like I said, I had Louisville plus 2.5 as well. But, their offense didn't show up in that horrible game. They were getting sacked left, right, and center. Florida State, obviously one of the best teams in the country, top 10 in pass rush. And then Tulane, it was a tough day for their offense as well. Pratt didn't really find anything going. SMU got pressure on Tulane all game in the American Championship. So that was a tough look as well. And then obviously, 3-0 day for you on Sunday. I mean, Colts very sweaty, obviously, that overtime win. Falcons, you kind of knew, obviously, like you said, the Jets were not going to score, any touchdowns that game. And then the Lions, minus 4.5. If you looked at that score in the first quarter and didn't look until the box score, and, you would have been shocked as well. Seeing this team go from 21-0 to finishing 33-28, like you said, just by the hook. So, a win's a win. So we'll take that 3-0 weekend for you on Sunday, Ari. But, like I said, we're going to wash that weekend away, move on to a new week, obviously, with some new bets. But obviously, we're going to get, the big story from the weekend is the college football playoff and, the selection. Obviously, now the 4 teams in order: Michigan, UW, Texas, and Alabama, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order. We're going to be giving some of our best bets, of course, to you guys, as we get closer to those games, because obviously those are on January 1st, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. So obviously not a little ways away, but, now that the college football season has pretty much ended for, all the ineligible teams or, obviously all the teams not going bowling or whatnot, now it's, now we're going to be getting into bowl season, and we're going to be doing some we're going to be getting some best bets for bowl season as we come up, not every bowl game, potentially, but, just the ones that we like the best, especially for the Saturday slate when there's, like 5 or 6 bowl games versus, potentially, one on the weekday when we have the Gasparilla Bowl or the Boca Raton Bowl. We may sneak a little play there, but, obviously leading up to the NFL college football playoff, obviously big matchups between UW and Texas and Michigan and Alabama. We're going to be giving our best bets for those coming up so soon, obviously just right around the corner. So tune into that. But now today, we're going to give our best bets for tonight's Monday Night Football game. It would be exciting if we did have both quarterbacks, but we got Trevor Lawrence and Jake Browning. Oh, okay. All right. Well, Jamar Chase is going to get over 55.5 receiving yards. I like his line at 55.5. That's where his line is right now. Look, I feel like if the Bengals want to have any chance in this game, this is going back to that Thursday game, like with the Seahawks, if they want to have a chance, they got to establish some kind of offense. And, for the Bengals all season, the struggle has been their offense, obviously. We've talked about the Bengals getting a consistent offense, even with Joe Burrow. Their offensive line wasn't really getting going. And then now, they lose Joe Burrow, and now it's even worse because now you still don't have an O-line, but now you don't have your quarterback as well. So, and I like Jamar Chase in the spot at over 55.5. I feel like if they got to establish some kind of offense, they're definitely going to be targeting him early, and welcoming back T. Higgins is a big get. This allows Jamar Chase to get a lot more open in space. It's kind of, pretty telling, when T. Higgins is not in the field, they'll just double cover Jamar Chase all the time, kind of lock down that side of the field. But, now that you have both, back, I think the Jaguars, who are not the best in terms of defending the pass, I feel like Jamar Chase does get over that over 55.5 receiving yards line, in this kind of interesting game, because, you would think, oh, if it's Joe Burrow throwing the ball, well, obviously he's going to get that line, but, it's Jake Browning. So it's a different quarterback at the helm. But I do like this over 55.5 receiving yard line for Jamar Chase. I think he's going to have, a pretty decent day, especially with, Browning probably throwing the ball because they're going to be down. Books are already saying that this is going to be a blowout for the Jags. So I expect Jake Browning to be throwing a lot. And that's why I'm also taking his over 32.5 passing attempts. That line's at minus 130 on DraftKings right now. I think, like I said, if Jake Browning's going to want to have any chance in this game surviving, potentially even getting a win on the road, he's going to be throwing the ball. And obviously, no credit to Joe Mixon. Obviously, it's just the fact that the Jags do have a sneaky good run defense. And, this is even though they are going to be feeding Joe Mixon a lot, that's going to set up, these early, second and longs that potentially, will be a dump down pass to Joe Mixon. I think I saw his receptions line at minus 170 for the over at over 1.5. So, it's already telling that Jake Browning is probably going to be dumping down the ball a lot. And I like this pass attempt line over. We don't even have to worry about just him to throw the ball. It doesn't have to be a completion, just making sure that he does throw the ball instead of handing it off. So, I do like that line over 32.5. I think that's where you get it. If it goes up to 33.5, I would maybe hesitate a little bit, but I don't see it going up much. I think it already went up from 31 up to 32, and I think there are already significant juices already telling that Jake Browning is probably going to be throwing a lot, especially since this team is going to be down. So I do like Jake Browning over 32.5 passing attempts. Those are really my only plays for this Monday night game. If I did have a lean, I would lean the Bengals plus 10. I just think that's too many points, especially with the low under already set at 40. But I'm just not going to tail that. I just don't really know what Bengals offense we're going to get. And, this could be one of the higher scoring games just because of the fact that, the Bengals don't really have a great pass coverage as well. And, you have guys like Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Etienne at the backfield. Zay Jones. I believe if he's healthy. I'm not 100% sure. I believe he's healthy, but there's so many options for Trevor Lawrence. I just think, I don't like taking it under in this spot, and I don't want to have to back the Bengals. So I'm just going to take, those two props tonight, Jamar Chase and Jake Browning. And then going over to college basketball, my only play, this is a very, very sad slate today for college basketball, but my only play is I'm taking Iowa in the first half to cover a plus 7.5 line. That's minus 120 on DraftKings. Right now, I think, look, it's just kind of contrary to Ari's pick from Friday, but Purdue in the first half on the road, I thought they were just going to get out to an early lead, establish that, and obviously we mentioned Northwestern pretty much came out the woodworks and kind of changed the game in the second half, and I think Iowa likes this. I think Iowa in this spot will try to set the tone early. I think in this first half, especially on the road at Purdue, Purdue obviously coming off that big loss to Northwestern. I think this is a great spot, just for Iowa. If their offense is going to be here, they're obviously, going to want to, shoot the ball better in the first half, make it at least a competitive-ish game versus a blowout. And I think that 7.5 point line is a little too much. I think maybe they cover 6, and maybe it's a 6 or 5 point game at half. Keep it close, but maybe not one possession game. But I think that 7.5 point line is too long. You mentioned Purdue was only up by 8 against Northwestern, and Iowa. The one thing we talk about is with the caveat for them is that their offense does not travel, so it's definitely going to be hard, to depend on a team that does not shoot the ball on the road well. But in this spot, I think it's just a bad spot for Purdue, to come home. And I don't know why the books were saying that Purdue was a 13 or 14 point favorite, with them leaning on the full game to cover right now. And I thought that was a little too much for me. And, at the same time, Iowa could get, beat down in the second half. So I'm just taking them in the first half to cover that line. I did like Iowa in this game, just to cover, but, I didn't like the full game. I just like the first half. So those are my 3 plays. Jamar Chase over 55.5 receiving yards in that Monday Night Football game, along with Jake Browning over 32.5 passing attempts. Like I said, if the Bengals want to have any chance in this game getting in the end zone, they're going to have to establish some kind of pass early. And then I liked Iowa just to cover the first half line at plus 7.5. I don't think Iowa covers the full game. That line was growing as well. And I think Iowa first half, I think that's just a safe play, as Ari's like to say, get in, get out. And, I think Iowa does make it competitive for one half in the first half, but then, Purdue maybe runs away with it, with potentially feeding Zach Edey inside and starting to tire out this Iowa offense. So give me Iowa plus 7.5. Those are my 3 plays for this Monday. Ari, I'm going to stop talking, so I'm going to let you get into your best bets. What are you taking on this Monday?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like the Browning look. I think he had 26 last week, and it was a close game all game against Pittsburgh. And now in a game where you figure they're going to be trailing, if he had 26 in a close game, 33 is definitely a good look for what I think they're going to be trailing most of the night. And that's what I'm going with in the first half. Jaguars team total over 12.5 in the first half. Whether it's a touchdown, 2 field goals, 2 touchdowns. Either way, I think that they can get pretty easily 13 points. It's a little bit juiced at minus 130, but I still like to look. If you want to go alternate, maybe get it closer to even at like over 13.5 potentially. That could be a look as well if you want to get closer to even money. But I like the Jaguars first half, and I'm going even more getting it out in the NBA tonight. Celtics first quarter minus 1.5. They're playing the Pacers in the in-season tournament knockout round now. These are the 2 high-scoring first-quarter teams in the NBA. The difference is in points allowed. The Celtics are allowing the 3rd third lowest amount of first quarter points, and the Pacers are allowing the second or third most points in the first quarter. So that's kind of the difference maker for me. These two teams played early in the year, and it was 44-27 Boston in the first quarter. They won by 17. I was not saying I expect them to win by 17 again today, but I think they can win pretty easily by 2+. Obviously, it's first quarter, so a team can get hot early and vice versa. So there's definitely some risk to it, but I think we've had enough of a sample size at this point to where they mean something. The stats in the first quarter, and the Celtics are allowing the third least amount of points in the first quarter and scoring the second most. Pacers scoring the most or second most, but they're allowing either the second or third most. So those kind of go hand in hand for me with the Celtics first quarter -1.5, and then the Jaguars team total in the first half to score 13+.
Yeah, I mean, like I definitely agree with the Jaguars right there. I think that's a good look. You said, -12.5, over 12.5 and -130 is a little juice, but like I said, I think it's a little safer, not really having to depend on, 13.5. That's 2 touchdowns exactly. So, you don't really know if the Jaguars, finish off in the red zone. Maybe they settle for 3 a couple of times, as you said. So maybe that line of -130 is a little juice, but at the same time, I think it's a safer play. I think the Jaguars, potentially move down the field a lot quicker, especially on this, Chiefs, on this Bengals offense, that has struggled against the pass. Obviously, the pass rush for the Bengals is kind of what they lean on with Trey Henderson up front. But the the defense, has taken a step back. The pass defense, and and that's what the Jaguars kind of feed off of. Big explosive plays, down the field, whether it's 20 or 30-yard bombs, whether it's to Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram or whoever. I like the Jaguars first half. To kind of set the tone, get over 13 points in that first half. So I do like that. And then as you mentioned, obviously tonight the first 2 matchups in the in-season tournament commence tonight with the Boston Celtics going to Indy. And, you mentioned the Celtics, one of the better defensive teams in that first quarter. Indy, obviously one of the worst defensive teams in the first quarter. And obviously at -1.5, I think, that's kind of telling that the Celtics do lead after the first quarter, maybe by 2 or 3. I think, if you're talking about really getting it out, you're only watching the game for 12 minutes and then, time to go. So obviously I do like the Celtics in this spot, obviously to establish the lead. Obviously this is a meaningful game. Obviously, this is the in-season tournament quarterfinal, so this is not group game or this is it. So obviously, I do like the Celtics to get in that first quarter and kind of establish the tone at -1.5 on the spread to lead after the first quarter. Those are always 2 bets. Obviously, just very get out Jaguars with the first half team total over 12.5, and then Celtics first quarter spread at -1.5 over the Indiana Pacers. And then going back to my best bets for the day, Jamar Chase, a total game over 55.5 receiving yards, Jake Browning over 32.5 pass attempts, and then Iowa to cover that first half spread at +7.5 in college basketball tonight. Those are our Monday best bets. I think that's a 5-0 card for both of us. Excuse me. And of course, you can find all of these plays posted down below on our Twitter, AKP Sports Talk. We'll have our full card and video linked down below so you guys can watch the full YouTube video and check out our Monday card. But that's going to do it for our Monday episode. That is Ari. I'm Korea. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow, Tuesday. See you later, guys.